My name's John Holwick, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this topic today. So just to introduce myself very quickly, I run our global sales efforts at Loom Systems. I've been with the company for about 2.5 years. Before that, I did the same thing at an AI company called Sales Predict, which was acquired by eBay, allowing me to come here and join Loom. And before that, I ran an equities research team at an investment manager called Fisher Investments. So I spent a lot of time analyzing balance sheets and income statements and determining how well companies would do. So ROI is a very close topic to my heart, which is why I'm very happy to present this today. So we'll be going through a lot of math and a lot of numbers today. So if you're not interested in that, leave now. Otherwise, stay with me and you'll really enjoy it. So to recap the series that we're doing, it's called the AIOps 2019 Buyer Guide. And we're running through a series of webinars that will help you to be armed with the best knowledge to evaluate and to navigate the AIOps landscape so that you can get the most out of it for your company. Those are the highlights of what's coming after this webinar. To cover what we're discussing today, we will start with the recap of last webinar, just in case any of you weren't on it yet. We'll talk about our research approach and how we came up with these statistics and calculations. Then we'll go through the actual calculations. We'll talk about next steps, and then we'll allow some time for Q&A. So as we go through this webinar, please use the chat and type them in as you think of them. Layla will be moderating. She'll be keeping track of all of the questions. We're going to answer them in order of the ones that will benefit the group the most. So if you have a question and you want to make sure it gets answered, then ask it in a way that benefits everybody. That's my advice to you. But we're going to cover everything that we can. We have 30 minutes for this webinar, now 25, so I'm going to go very fast. Do ask questions, and we will send a recording to all of you afterwards so that you can pause it, go back over any of the detail that I mentioned today. So to provide some context before we dive in, I want to just recap what the entire mission of our company, Loom Systems, is. So what we endeavor to do is improve the experience of all of your customers by predicting and preventing problems within their digital enterprise, so their entire IT environment, and do that with machine learning and AI. The two differentiators that our product contains in combination that no other does on the market are that we will find IT incidents before your customers are affected and tell you exactly how to solve those problems. So I want to provide that with context. I'm not here to do a sales pitch. I'm here to go over numbers. If you're interested in a sales pitch, please contact me. I'll tell you how to do that. But I want to provide some context to why the product exists before we jump in. Now, to recap what we covered last time, in the first webinar, our CEO, Gab Menahem, and our lead sales engineer, Tim McGraw, went over the 5 areas of where to expect ROI from AIOps. And I'll just recap what those are. So the first one was IT productivity improvements. So faster MTTR, better responses to incidents. That was 38% of the expected ROI. So the largest piece of the pie over here on the right. The second one was prevention of outages, as well as effort in P1 incident management. You can see that was 30% of the pie. Then the smaller pieces, but still significant, were automation, coming in at 13%, increased output from employees of 10%, and then cost savings that would come from reducing licenses from other products or reducing the need to outsource. That was still still 8%. So these 5 categories were the most prevalent when we did our research, and that's what we covered from a high level in our first webinar. So you can see that this total ROI of 13 million is an expectation for a certain type of company. So let's recap what we consider, or what we're calling, the winner organization. And what this winner organization represents, it's taken from a Fortune 2000 company, but since we have a lot of inputs from other customers and other folks that we've surveyed for this data, we've normalized all of their answers to fit these characteristics. So 15,000 employees, 15,000 incidents per month, or 180,000 per year. It's a company that has 4,000 servers, either virtual or physical, and 600 people that are in IT. And we call them IT practitioners, which are L1 through L3, folks that are actually involved in the remediation and the detection of problems. So anytime we had a large organization, if it was a company that was 30,000 employees, then we would cut the data in half, et cetera, so that we could normalize it around what we're calling the winner organization. So to dive into the first area of calculations here, and on this webinar, I'm only going to cover the first 2. We're going to follow up with material so that you can calculate every area, input your own statistics and your own data points to come up with your own personalized ROI. For this webinar, we're going to cover the first 2 areas, the ones that, again, covered 38% of the expected ROI and then 30% ROI upcoming on the prevention of outages. So first one, IT productivity improvements. So this is assuming a typical volume of 15,000 monthly incidents. And a very important assumption that we're making here is that 20% of that volume can be helped through log analysis. So the reason why we're saying that only 20% of these problems can be helped by log analysis is because we are making an effort here to be very conservative with these calculations. So we know that from typical customers, this number is much higher than 20%. But if we set the bar very low for these calculations, then it's very easy for you to surpass it. So that's the reason why we're assuming 20% of these incidents can be helped by log analysis. The second assumption that's really important to note here is that of the 2-hour average time that it takes for a tier 3 engineer, that can be reduced by 45% through an AIOps solution. So this is coming from research that we've done, as well as an organization to learn about the 2-hour average time to solve, and then the reduction through a tool like Loom of 45%, bringing that average time down to roughly an hour. So those are 2 very important assumptions. Now, let's get into another important topic, because I want to answer a question that we get all the time, which is, what about false alerts? And I want to introduce a new way of looking at false alerts. And I want to say that it's not about the percentage of false alerts. And when I say false alerts, I just mean ones that an AIOps tool might bring you that don't require immediate action. And I want to say that it's not about the percentage of those alerts, but instead what's important is the time that's wasted in looking at them. Because when you introduce a tool that has automated root cause analysis like Loom, it's making it very easy to figure out when an alert is brought forth that doesn't need immediate action. You can recognize it very quickly. You can do that within 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes at the most, because you're given the context around that false alert. So this is another important topic and another important assumption within the calculations that we've made for for the ROI. So instead of spending 2 hours figuring out that an alert is not problematic and doesn't require action, instead spend 1 minute or 2 minutes because you see that the root cause analysis is attached to it. All right, now let's get into some math. And I will invite all of you to get out a calculator and follow along. Since we all have calculators in our pockets with our phones, then I'll give you guys a couple minutes to just pull it out, or a couple seconds just to pull it out. And I've got mine, so let's go. So to get to the 827,000 of ROI, the 1.7 million of ROI, and the 2.5 million of ROI, as we go through year 1, 2, and 3 in this category, we're going to simply follow all of these assumptions as we go down through the cells that are associated here. So the first one is assuming monthly volume of incidents of 15,000. So everybody just type in 15,000 into your calculator. And now we're going to multiply that by 12 because we're trying to get an ROI that is an annual figure. So times 12, and everybody should have 180,000. Next step, we are assuming that 20% of that volume can be resolved faster due to log analysis. Notice that that tiers up here. So it gets higher as time goes on, but it's always a very conservative number. You're going to get better as you use any type of tool. But first, we'll just calculate this first year that says 20%. So we're going to take 180,000 times 0.2 representing 20%. So now we've got 36,000 incidents in a year that we think can be helped by AI log analysis. Now we'll multiply that times A3, estimated time spent resolving a single incident before AIOps in hours, and we have 2. So 36,000 now times 2, and you should have 72,000 on your calculators. Next, we're going to multiply that times the reduction in effort due to AIOps. So this is helping your tier 2 and tier 3 engineers to resolve incidents faster. Some of these incidents can even be solved by tier 1. So that reduction is 45%. So since we're after the total reduction and the total benefit, we're going to multiply that times 45%. So 72,000 on your screens times 0.45. And everybody should have now 32,400. That's a figure representing the number of hours that are going to be saved for an organization that has that volume of incidents over the course of a year. So now we're going to skip down to A7. A7 is the estimated hourly salary of a tier 3 IT employee fully loaded. So including benefits, including their laptop, including the snacks that you have in the office, fully loaded here, 45 bucks an hour. So now we're going to take that, we're going to take the total hours that we have of 32,400, multiply it by 45. Now we're going to have a total number of hours that are saved, or sorry, a total number of dollars that are saved through all of those benefits. And the final thing that we're going to do in year 1 that we don't do in year 2 and 3 is that we're going to multiply this times 0.66. And the reason we do that is because, again, we want to be conservative. And we're also anticipating that since we deal with primarily large organizations, and this would be one here with 15,000 incidents a month, that it takes time to roll things out. You know, you're going to have to go through security reviews to be able to access the data. You're going to train the team, et cetera. So again, being very, very conservative, we're saying we're taking that number and then times 0.66 for the first year. And what we end up with in A8 for year 1 is a benefit of $962,280. But we're not done yet. And again, I mentioned the concept of false alerts, which again means not immediately actionable. I would contend that since the data is coming from your logs, if your logs say that you have a problem, then you have a problem. There's no such thing as a false alert. But it's important to tune and prioritize and understand when something needs action right away, or if it's something that can just be considered for later. And that's what we'll tackle now. So the cost of handling false alerts, we've got the equation here, A1 times 12. So we'll walk through this again. A1 is 15,000 times 12. We've got 180,000 for the year. Then we do that times A5, which is the amount of not immediately actionable alerts. So times 0.5. And then we've got A6 divided by 60. So this is the average in minutes of time spent on notifications that need to be dismissed. Because AIOps is delivering not just an alert with no context around it, but also the meaningful information around that detection, it's very fast to figure out whether you need to take action or whether you don't. So this 2 minutes is how quickly you can tell if an alert is false or doesn't require action. So we take that 90,000, we do times 2, we divide then by 60. We've got 3,000 hours that, in quotes, is wasted due to false alerts. And we want to subtract that out because that should not be part of the benefit. The only way to analyze this properly is to look at the net benefit. So we've got 3,000 hours, and now we're going to do that again, times that $45 per hour for your engineers. And we've got 135,000 that's subtracted out. So 962 to 80 minus 135,000 gives us a year one calculation of $827,280 benefit from AIOps in year one. So as time goes on, you guys can see that year 2 is the same calculation. There's a change in the percentage of volume that can be resolved through logs because you'll get better working with them. You don't have the year 1 ramp up, so the numbers are slightly different. And you also have a smaller number of not immediately actionable alerts. The reason for that is because the tool learns as you teach it things. So if you teach it that it's not immediately actionable, it's going to learn, and that's going to be reduced over time. So those are the factors which change the numbers for year 2 and year 3. I'm not going to go through the year 2 and year 3 calculations. Again, I'll send this recording so that everybody has it. And you can do your own calculations to make sure that they match what you have. But I think for now, on the sake of time, let's move on to the second category. And as you guys have questions, please feel free, type them into the chat. I want to address all of them in about 3 minutes here after we cover this next piece. Okay, second part that we'll analyze the calculations for is prevention of outages. So again, 30% of the expected ROI is coming from this category. And we're going to see how to get to this 777,600 figure for year 1. Couple assumptions. When we look at a yearly volume of 180,000, so this is the same that we just went through, that AIOps is able to reduce the number of incidents by predicting them at a rate of 42%. Then the remaining incidents that weren't predicted are going to be solved in half the time. So instead of the 4-hour average that we've taken from our customers and from industry surveys as well, it's going to be cut down to 2 hours. Another assumption is that with critical application failures arising at a rate of about 1 per month, you may be higher, you may be lower. We took 1 per month as a conservative figure. An AIOps solution can start predicting these events at the same rate and avoiding the impact of an incident, which is assumed to be $180,000 per hour. So we've seen many data points on this. You probably have too. Gartner says that the cost of an outage is $300,000 per hour. We actually just took the lowest data point that we saw from our research, which made it the most conservative. So that's 180,000. Now let's go into a little bit more of the equation and the calculations. So this one's far simpler than the one that we just went through. So we're gonna move fast. But again, pull out your calculators, hit all clear. Let's start over. Number of critical incidents is where we'll start that cause critical application failure annually. Again, we're assuming 1 per month, so that's 12 for the month. Now we're going to figure out how many of those could have been predicted so that AIOps finds it, you can fix it before your customers are affected. And we know that typically grows to 42%, but again, we're giving you a conservative ramp up so that we assume just in year 1 that you're going to be, more than half of that, or less than half of that. So as adoption grows, we reach 40%, but we start with 18%. So 12 times 0.18 is going to give us our number that can be predicted in year 1. So we've got 2.16. Now we're going to multiply that times the hours that are saved. And that's just 4 minus 2. So 2.16 times 2. And we've got 4.32 hours times 180,000 is going to give us our total benefit. So 4.32 times 180,000, and we've got 777,600. This one's far simpler. We're basically cutting out four and change hours of downtime because it was predicted, times $180,000 loss every hour that a critical application is down. And as we're starting to near the end of the webinar, I want to make sure that we get to Q&A. So let's cover next steps. And what we're offering is complimentary, personalized ROI consultations. So myself or a member of the team will sit down with you. We can look at the specific statistics that you have and the data points that you have for number of incidents. We can look at your actual salary costs. We can look at your average MTTR. And we can give you something that you can either evaluate yourself in terms of whether AIOps is something you want to pursue, or something that you can take to management to convince them that they should take place, or they should pursue an AIOps evaluation. One of the things that I'll point out is that the reason why the ROI of AIOps is so high is that this is not just another iteration of the same tools that have been in IT for the past couple decades. Because AIOps is able to find things that are going wrong without the need for you to tell it what to look for, and also, as I mentioned in the very beginning, tell you how to solve them. That's why the ROI has such a potential benefit. We see 10x ROI with many of our customers just because it's such a leap beyond what they're already doing with traditional IT monitoring tools. And our company also has a playbook that we follow, taking you through every single step to make sure that you're maximizing that value and realizing it through Loom. So with that, I'd love to just remind you that we've got the next webinar, which is Tuesday, February 5th, 11 a.m. And we're going to cover the RFP. So if you submit RFPs in your organization, this will be really valuable for you, and you'll know what not to leave out of it so that you get the best information from the vendors you submit it to. So Layla, maybe I'll ask you, what kind of questions have we gotten through the webinar that we should address?
Awesome. Yeah, let's just jump right into the first question we have. So how do you define a predicted incident in the prevention of outages, row A2?
Okay, good question. So let's go back to that and let's look at the data while we answer this. So a predicted incident, so A2. Okay, great question. So a predicted incident, again, is one that is found via your IT monitoring tool, so found via Loom, before your customers have to call into your support line or submit a support ticket. This is the negative MTTR that we're all after, is to be able to have IT find the problem and fix it before anybody has to complain about it. So that would be a predicted incident. Good question.
Awesome. Yeah, this is a good question too. Where would I find these numbers in my organization?
Okay, good. So it's going to be in a different place in every organization. So um, I would look first in an ITSM tool like a ServiceNow, or maybe your organization uses Jira or Salesforce cases. All of those tools should be able to provide you these types of numbers. So how many incidents do you have per month? You'll have to ask HR about a fully loaded salary. You may not get it depending on how close you are with that head of HR that you're asking. And if you can't, then we can use this as a best guess. But I think for most of the operational figures, you're going to need the volume of incidents. You're going to need the average time to resolve them. So that's this here, to see how it compares to our average of 2. If you start with those, then that can get you a long way in terms of your own calculations.
Great. Next question. How come you can only solve 20% of incidents with logs? What happens to the 80% left?
Okay, good question. So my answer here is that you can solve a lot of your problems through logs. Again, I'm just trying to be conservative because most of our customers are buying an AIOps platform for the first time. So they may have experience working primarily with metrics. They may have experience just searching a bunch of different data sources and tables, or look at the source of the logs to be able to come up with answers. So I think this number is much, much higher. I think you can solve most of your issues through log analysis. But again, I want to be conservative for the calculations so that when you bring this to your CIO and your CFO and say, I expect $827,000 of benefit in year 1, that you can exceed that because it's better to underpromise and overdeliver.
Awesome. I think we still have a bit of time for this last question.
Yeah, let's do one more.
Awesome. So I don't understand the incidents solved by tier 1 calculation in IT productivity improvements. What is that? I think it's row A4.
Okay, so I don't understand the
incidents solved by tier 1 calculation in row A4.
Okay, got it. All right, good question. Thanks for asking directly too, by the way. It's one of my favorite things about working in this industry. Is so we're not saying that all of the incidents are going to be solved by tier 1. We're saying that the benefit is to resolve these incidents 45% faster. So the key figure, no matter how you do it, is that this 2 hours comes down to roughly 1 hour, because we've either provided incidents that tell tier 1 how to solve it and they can do it themselves, or tier 2 or 3 have less research to do to get to that resolution. So it's a 45% reduction in the average time to solve a single incident that's most important for the calculation. Maybe one more. Let's do a rapid fire final question.
Great. Awesome. So last one. Why are you assuming that the amount of actionable alerts goes down every year? Row A5, productivity improvements.
Okay, so this is the amount of not immediately actionable alerts or false alerts. Reason why this goes down is because within a tool, within Loom specifically, it's learning as you interact with it. So not only is it watching the ones that you address first as it delivers them to you, and prioritizing accordingly, but you can also give it direct feedback saying, I see that this is a problem, but it's not something we're going to take action on. You can mute it, or you can tune the threshold for it of when it will alert you according to your organization and what's important to you. So this actually happens faster. Again, we're being conservative. You're going to have a very, very low number of not immediately actionable alerts, even by the end of the first year. But again, being conservative, and driven by the fact that you're tuning the system and giving it feedback so that it's always giving you the best prioritization of the alerts that it brings to you. Okay, guys, we went 2 minutes over. Sorry for that, but I hope it was worthwhile to you. And again, don't forget to sign up for our ROI consultations. And I'll leave this here, loomsystems.com/ROI consultation. Or feel free just to email me directly. I answer all of my emails. It's jholwick@loomsystems.com. I'll leave this up for a couple more minutes, and thank you all for joining. I really appreciate your interest and hope that we can interact further to help you implement AIOps in your organization.
Visit loomsystem.com to create your trial account and learn about your infrastructure's complete story today.